The Alchemist, man. How many guys read this book? By the way, how many guys read this book? The Alchemist. Man, what a great read. All right, man. We are good to go on our other platforms, man. It's time to get this show on the road, man. New Black Wall Street Book Club, man. Hey, we're not going to take up too much time. It's the midday mental break. Time to get this show on the road. Mr. DJ, hit the music.
All the words from the pages change your world. Your world. You can change your heart. You can change your mind. You can change your life. Can change your world.
All right, my beautiful people, that's right. The books can change your world. This is your boy, ERGJ, your certified financial educator, CEO of ERGJ Enterprises and ERGJ Black Bazaar, also international best-selling author of the book, The Black Billionaires Club, A Study of Black Wealth, a study of the 12 richest Black people in the world today and how they built their wealth. This is New Black Wall Street Book Club and our midday mental break, and this is just where I just take some time to share with you things that I did to help me leave the rat race. When I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, I had to do something different. Everybody putting guys on do something different. I had to do something different. So what I decided to do was what no one else was willing to do. And therefore now I'm in a position where I can live like no one else can afford to live. And I'm telling you, once you make the choice, you make the decision to change, things will change for you. Stop waiting on everything else to change. Stop waiting on the government to change. Stop waiting on policies to change. You change, right? You change, and everything else will change for you. So what did I do to go from being an employee to an entrepreneur? I simply did this. I simply took my hour lunch. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, took my lunch break, and I would take 30 minutes of my lunch break to eat, right? To eat for my body, my physical body. But then I would take the other 30 minutes to feed my spirit and my soul. And so I fed myself good quality books. So I'll take my little walk around the campus. I'll be the only one out there with a book reading. And guess what? They probably still there being sick and tired. And I freed myself. Why? Because I first freed my mind. I freed myself because I first freed my mind. That's good in the song by what In Vogue says, free your mind and the rest will follow. So here today on the New Black Wall Street, we're going to continue along in a book that I read during that time, about 10 years ago. Read that book, and it helped me to free myself, and now I'm in a position where I'm able to take my time, my free time, to be able to hopefully help my brother and my sister. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Today's episode is sponsored by ERGJ Black Bazaar. ERGJ Black Bazaar, you want to check them out, ergjblackbazaar.com. We do have a couple of books in our bookstore. This one here is Wesley Learns About Credit. This is introducing a fictional children's book offering a kid-friendly peek into the world of credit. So we do have this in stock. How many guys wish you would have learned a little bit about credit before you went all the way into debt? How many guys wish somebody would have talked to you about that when you was in the 5th grade? Well, this is a book that you can pick up in our bookstore. Wesley Learns About Credit. We only got a couple of copies left, okay? Only got a couple copies left, all right? So, also, if you are an author or you have written a book and you want to, what's going on? AJ Henry is in the house, and you feel like what you have written will be good for this show. Make sure you inbox us, let us know about your book. We love to be able to review that book and see if it's going to be something we can add to our rotation. And if you have a business, a product, or service, and you want us to promote for you, you want us to help you sell more stuff, you want to sponsor this show, well, make sure you inbox us and let us know. We can do that as well. We are broadcasting across Facebook Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Live, and now also our podcast, which reaches about 20,000 people, okay? So you got an opportunity to expand your brand, expand your reach, and partner and collaborate, and we can do this together. Everybody putting us all together. So while you guys are connected, go and let me know what city, what state you're connecting from. What do you represent? Rep your city right now. We're going to get right into our text of the afternoon, our midday mental break, The Alchemist. Now, it's I don't want to do a whole recap because I feel like I do that every day, but let's just kind of pick up where we are in the book. So Santiago is a shepherd boy. He is on his way to find his treasure. He's ran into a couple of interesting figures along the way. 2 of them helped him to interpret his dream and helped him to make a decision to go to Africa. And now he's on his way to actually Africa. He's now met a a traveler who wants to understand and wants to learn alchemy. He wants to find the alchemist that he believes is Al Fayum. So now they're about to begin to travel across the desert. The desert represents the journey. Everybody put in comments on journey. For you and I, just like Santiago, to find our treasure, we're going to have to go on a journey. That means to understand that it's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's something that's going to happen over time. Also, the desert represents uncertainty because it's, how long before you get across that desert. You also have obstacles. You have dry heat. You have thirst. You have hunger. It's the journey across the desert. Now, the Egyptians, they had to cross the Red Sea. Same thing. You have to cross over something. You have to go through something in order to find your treasure. The question is, are you willing to go over it? Are you willing to go over? Are you willing to go through? Are you willing to take the journey to find your treasure? Now, here's the interesting thing about Santiago. He already had a job. His job was a shepherd to tend to the sheep. So he already had a job, but yet he still doesn't have his treasure. So I want you to understand that you could be in a position where you do have a job, but that ain't your treasure. And you could have a job and it is your treasure, but some of you are in a position where you got a job, but that's not your treasure. That's not what you're passionate about. That's not what you've been called to do. You're just doing it because you got a paycheck. And that's all right. You take care of house and home. I just want you to understand the story. Mr. Santiago, the shepherd boy, he's got a job. He's got sheep. He's doing he's doing his job. But he hasn't found his treasure yet. And I told you yesterday, I'm looking for treasure hunters. I'm looking for people who are willing to go through, go over, cross over, take the trip, go on the journey. And I believe you're going to make the biggest contribution that you can once you find your treasure, which is personal legend. Let's pick up where we were left off yesterday. So let's pick up in the desert. All right. So the desert was all sand in some stretches and rocky in others. When the caravan was blocked by a boulder, it had to go around it. You're going to find some boulders in your pathway. If there was a large rocky area that had to make a major detour, you're going to need to take some detours every once in a while. If there was sand, the sand was too fine for the animals' hooves, they sought a way where the sand was more substantial. You're going to have to find another way sometimes on your journey. In some places, the ground was covered with the salt of dried up lakes. The animals balked at such places, and the camel drivers were forced to dismount and unburden their charges. The drivers carried the freight themselves over such treacherous footing and then reloaded the camels. There are some people that are coming with you on your journey that you're going to have to carry the load for. That's called being a leader. You understand? There are some people who are coming with you who are let's just call them your followers. We got Facebook followers and Instagram followers. There's some people who are following you that you're going to have to help carry their load to get to the other side. There are going to be boulders, going to be obstacles. There's going to be some things you're going to have to take some detours. You're going to find some ways around, but at the end of the day, do you still have your sights set on your destination? No matter what you got to go through to get there. If a guy were to fall ill and die, the camel drivers would draw lots and appoint a new one. But all this happened for one basic reason. No matter how many detours, no matter how many adjustments they made, the caravan moved toward the same compass point. They knew where they were going. No matter what, they knew where they were going, so they kept moving forward toward their destination. That begs the question, do you know where you're going? Have you caught the vision yet? Do you know where you're going? Second question, are you willing to do what's necessary no matter what? Are you willing to take the detours? Are you willing to make the adjustments? Are you willing to make the course corrections because you know where you're going? Now here's the deal. Most people don't know where they're going. Most people are what they call drifters. They drift everywhere they go. They drift into this, they drift into that, they drift into this, they drift into that. They never take control of their own life, and therefore they find themselves living their whole life drifting. Once obstacles were overcome, it returned to its course, sighting on a star that indicated the location of the oasis. When the people saw the star shining in the morning sky, they knew they were on the right course toward water, palm trees, shelter, and other people. It was only the Englishman who was unaware of all this. He was, for the most part, immersed in reading his books. He was studying. The boy, too, had his book, and he tried to read it during the first few days of the journey, but he found it much more interesting to observe the caravan and listen to the wind. As soon as he had learned to know his camel better and to establish a relationship with him, he threw the book away. Although the boy had developed a superstition that each time he opened a book, he would learn something important, he decided it was an unnecessary burden. He became friendly with the camel driver who traveled alongside him. At night, as they sat around the fire, the boy related to the driver his adventures as a shepherd. During one of these conversations, the driver told of his own life. I used to live near El Karoum, he said. Had my orchard, my children, and a life that would change not at all until I died. One year when the crop was the best ever, we all went to Mecca, and I satisfied the only unmet obligation in my life. I could die happily, and that made me feel good. One day the earth began to tremble, and the Nile overflowed its banks. It was something that I thought could happen only to others, never to me. My neighbors feared they would lose all their olive trees in the flood, and my wife was afraid that we would lose our children. I thought that everything I owned would be destroyed. The land was ruined, and I had to find some other way to earn a living. Now, when I read this made me think about all the government workers, right? And they have to find some other way. Everybody put in console, some other way. They got to find some other way to earn a living. So now I'm a camel driver. But that disaster taught me to understand the word of Allah. People need not fear the unknown. If they are capable of achieving what they need and want, people need not fear the unknown if they are capable. If they are capable of achieving what they need and want. Now, am I talking to anyone today that's not capable? That's not capable of achieving of that what you need and want? Is there something that's keeping you that makes you unable? I don't think so. I think you and I, we all are capable. Now, if we do it or not, that's another thing. But are we capable? Do we have the ability? Do we have the audacity? Do we have the talent? Do we have the intelligence? Do we have all our limbs? Are we capable? Now, whenever you go buy a house or something like that, they use these three terms: ready, willing, and able. Ready, willing, and able. So able and capable about the same. Are you able? I think so. Able-bodied men, I think so. So people need not fear the unknown if they are capable of achieving what they need and want. We're afraid of losing what we have, whether it's our life or our possessions and property, but this fear evaporates when we understand, everybody put in console, understand. When we understand that our life stories and the history of the world were written by the same hand. Sometimes their caravan met with another. One always had something that the other needed, as if everything were indeed written by one hand. As they sat around the fire, the camel drivers exchanged information about windstorms and told stories about the desert. At other times, mysterious hooded men would appear. They were Bedouins who did surveillance along the caravan route. They provided warnings about thieves and barbarian tribes. They came in silence and departed the same way, dressed in black garments that showed only their eyes. One night, a camel driver came to the fire where the Englishman and the boy were sitting. There were rumors of tribal wars, he told them. The three fell silent. The boy noted that there was a sense of fear in the air. Even though no one said anything, once again, he was experiencing the language without words, the universal language. The Englishman asked if they were in danger. Once you get into the desert, there's no going back, said the camel driver. And when you can't go back, you have to worry only about the best way of moving forward. So once you get into the desert, there is no going back. Once you begin your journey, there's no going back. You only have to concern yourself with the best way of moving forward. Man, what a way to be. Where the only thing you have to concern yourself is the best way. The best way. Now, it may not be the easiest way, right? But it's the best way. The best way to move forward. The best way to move forward. Wow. The best way to move forward. The rest is up to Allah, including the danger. And he concluded by saying the mysterious word Maktu, which means it is written. You should pay more attention to the caravan, the boy said to the Englishman after the camel driver had left. We make a lot of detours, but we're always heading for the same destination. We make a lot of detours. We make a lot of detours on this journey. We make a lot of detours on our way to Egypt. Now, we can consider Egypt to be the promised land. We can see Egypt to be the destination. And then whatever Egypt is for you, you're going to make a lot of detours, but you're still heading towards the same destination. And you ought to read more about the world, answered the Englishman. Books are like caravans in that respect. The immense collection of people and animals began to travel faster. The days had always been silent, but now even the nights, when the travelers were accustomed to talking about the fires, they had also become quiet. And one day, the leader of the caravan made the decision that the fire should no longer be lighted, so as not to attract attention to the caravan. The travelers adopted the practice of arranging the animals in a circle at night, sleeping together in the center as protection against the nocturnal cold. And the leader posted armed sentinels at the fringes of the group. The Englishman was unable to sleep one night. He called to the boy and they took a walk along the dunes surrounding the encampment. There was a full moon and the boy told the Englishman the story of his life. The Englishman was fascinated with the part about the progress achieved at the crystal shop after the boy began working there. That's the principle that governs all things, he said. In alchemy, it's called the soul of the world. When you want something with all your heart, that's when you are closest to the soul of the world. It's always a positive force. I'm going to read that again. When you want something with all your heart, that's when you are closest to the soul of the world. It's always a positive force. Now, I don't know about you, but I got to a place in my life where I was tired of just living. I was tired of just being, and I wanted to start living. And I wanted to start to figure out what it is that I wanted more than anything else. What is it that I want with all of my heart? Now, that's word all. Everybody put in the console all. That word all. Not just a little bit. Not just wishing. Not just hoping. Not just dreaming. But something that you absolutely gotta have with all your heart. I'm telling you that there's so many things that we just simply do not give enough attention to. There's certain things that we have a desire for, but we won't give it our all. Always having a back door out of it. What is it that you desire with all your heart? He also said that this was not just a human gift, that everything on the face of the earth had a soul, whether mineral or vegetable or animal, or even just a simple thought. Everything on earth is being continuously transformed because the earth is alive and it has a soul. We are part of that soul, so we rarely recognize that it is working for us. But in the crystal shop, you probably realize that even the glasses were collaborating in your success. The boy thought about that for a while, and as he looked at the moon and the bleached sands, I watched the caravan as it crossed the desert, he said. The caravan and the desert speak the same language, and it's for that reason that the desert allows the crossing. It's going to test the caravans every step to see if it's in time, and if it is, we will make it to the oasis. If either of us had joined this caravan based only on personal courage, but without understanding that language, this journey would have been much more difficult. They stood there looking at the moon. That's the magic of the omen, said the boy. I've seen how the guys read the signs of the desert and how the soul of the caravan speaks to the soul of the desert. The Englishman said, I better pay more attention to the caravan. And I better read your books, said the boy. So now there's an exchange going on. They were strange books. They spoke about Mercury, salt, dragons, and kings, and he didn't understand any of it. But there was one idea that seemed to repeat itself throughout all the books. All things are the manifestation of one thing only. All things are the manifestation of one thing only. In one of the books, he learned that the most important text in the literature of alchemy contained only a few lines and had been inscribed on the surface of an emerald. It's the emerald tablet, said the Englishman, proud that he might teach something to the boy. Well, then, why do you need all these books, the boy asked. So that we can understand those few lines, the Englishman answered, without appearing to really believe what he had said. The book that most interested the boy told the stories of the famous alchemists. They were men who were dedicated their entire lives to the purification of metals in their laboratories. They believed that if a metal were heated for many years, it would free itself of all the individual properties and what was left would be the soul of the world. This soul of the world allowed them to understand anything on the face of the earth because it was the language with which all things communicated. They called that discovery the masterwork. Everybody putting console masterwork. It was part liquid and part solid. Can't you just observe men and women in order to understand the language, the boy asked? You have a mania for simplifying everything, answered the Englishman, irritated. Alchemy is a serious discipline. Every step has to be followed exactly as it was, followed by the masters. Now notice this. The boy, Santiago, obviously he was a shepherd. He learned this language, or this personal language of being able to communicate and understand without having to speak a word. Now he's in the desert seeing the same thing. He was in a crystal shop seeing the same thing. He's in the he's talking about following people the same way. Now he hits it from one angle, and then but the Englishman or the wannabe alchemist hits it from another angle. That's called perspective. Now they're talking about the same thing, but they're coming from a different perspective. They're talking about the same thing. One may make it a little bit simpler, one makes it a little bit more difficult, more complex, but they're talking about the same thing. There's just a different perspective. Now, how many of us, we get caught up on perspective just because they don't use the same word that I use, just because they don't use the same name that I use, just because you're talking about the same thing. That's just a different perspective. Matter of fact, I would venture to say that all these religions that we got in the world, they're all from a different perspective, talking about the same thing. Same principles. It's like, wow, we got all of this from the same thing. It's almost as if whoever created it said, man, no. Y'all need to do what I say, and because I got pride on my side. But they talk about the same thing, just call it something different, speak a different language, all that good stuff. The same thing. The boy learned that the liquid part of the masterwork was called the elixir of life, and that it cured all illnesses. It also kept the alchemist from growing old, and the solid part was called the philosopher's stone. So you got the masterwork, which includes the elixir of life and the philosopher's stone. It's not easy to find a philosopher's stone, said the Englishman. The alchemists spent years in their laboratories observing the fire that purified the metals. They spent so much time close to the fire that gradually they gave up the vanities of the world. They discovered that the purification of the metals has led to a purification of themselves. The boy thought about the crystal merchant. He said that it was a good thing for the boy to clean the crystal pieces so that he could free himself from negative thoughts. The boy was becoming more and more convinced that alchemy could be learned in one's daily life. Also, said the Englishman, the philosopher's stone has a fascinating property. A small silver of the stone can transform large quantities of metal into gold. Having heard that, the boy became even more interested in alchemy. He thought that with some patience, he'd be able to transform everything into gold. He read the lives of various people who had succeeded in doing so: Helvetius, Elias, Fulcanelli, and Gerber. They were fascinating stories. Each of them lived out his personal legend to the end. They traveled, spoke with wise men, performed miracles for the incredulous, and owned the philosopher's stone and the elixir of life. But when the boy wanted to learn how to achieve the master work, he became completely lost. They were just drawings, coded instructions, and obscure text. Now notice what he said. He said, from all my experience, from the little knowledge that I have, And from reading these books and experiencing life, I think that I can turn anything into gold. Everybody put in the console, everything I touch turns to gold. Now notice, I mean, we can focus on the Englishman and his perspective that he got to go through all this study. He got to do all of this stuff, right? But the boy's like, wait a second, all this stuff is tied. This is all tied into the same stuff. And I can learn this. I can learn this, and in anything, I can turn anything into gold. Now, what is gold? Gold is something of value. That's the representation of gold. Something of value. Something very, 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 very valuable. And is it possible that you and I, we have overlooked the mundane things in our life and not really valuing them as much? In other words, we don't have as much gratitude as we should for the smaller things in life that really are valuable. Everything. He said, I think anything. I can turn anything into gold. Got the Midas touch. Now, here's the interesting thing. I think you and I, we've been in situations where it seemed like everything we touch turned to gold. Now, we might only experience it for a short amount of time, a temporary time where maybe we was in the zone and everything we touched was turning to gold. Everything was working out in our favor. And I think there must be something to it where we don't just have to have it temporarily. We can have it for an extended or maybe even an eternal standpoint where not just every now and then I feel that way. Not just every now and then everything is working together for my good, but everything I touch turns to gold. Now notice the master work. That means you're finished, your masterpiece, you're a finished piece of work. I mean, we know a lot of us need some work. A lot of us are a work in progress, right? We're a work in progress. But once the work is complete, it becomes a masterwork, and everything you touch turns to gold. Also, he said that the alchemists, they were living out their personal legend, which means it's individual. Your legend, your journey is different from my journey. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not in the desert together. It's just your journey is different from mine. The same way that the young boy's journey is different from the alchemist, but they're in the desert together. Perspective. What's going on, Beauty? How are you? Thanks so much for joining. Why do they make things so complicated? He asked the Englishman one night. The boy had noticed that the Englishman was irritable and missed his books. So that those who have the responsibility for understanding can understand, he said. Imagine if everybody went around transforming lead into gold. Gold would lose its value. Right? Imagine if everybody. Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that statement. Well, I guess I do. I guess I do. If everybody could do it, then if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? But here's the thing: everybody can do it, but everybody won't do it. That's the difference. It's not that they're not capable of doing it; they just have no interest in doing it. That's the difference. So everybody can turn lead into gold. Everybody can find their personal legend. Everybody can go find their treasure. Everybody can. It's capable. You're able to do it, but everybody won't. That's the difference between success and failure. People that realize that they have the ability and they use their ability to go after that which they want. And people who have the ability but don't recognize they have ability and think that somebody else needs to do it for them. The capability and the ability is there. But many of us simply won't realize it, won't understand it, won't look for it, and therefore we won't find it. If only those who are persistent and willing to study things deeply, oh, look at that. It's only those who are persistent and are willing to study things deeply who achieve the master work. Everybody put it on so study. Put a post up earlier today. I said, hey, when I wake up, I study Billionaires. Who and what do you study? And some people haven't picked up a book since they graduated college or high school. 20, 30 years later. Studying to study is almost a cuss word in their life. Study, who does that? I already got my job. You know what I mean? I can go out and do what I want to do. Yeah, but have you found your personal legend yet? Well, you know, who said that you should stop learning, growing, developing? For those who are persistent and are willing to study things deeply, who achieve the masterwork, that's why I'm here in the middle of the desert. I'm seeking a true alchemist who will help me to decipher the codes. When were these books written, the boy asked. Many centuries ago. They didn't have the printing press in those days, the boy argued. There was no way for everybody to know about alchemy. Why did they use such strange language with so many drawings? The Englishman didn't answer him directly. He said that was for that for the past few days he had been paying attention to how the caravan operated, but that he hadn't learned anything new. The only thing he had noticed was that talk of war was becoming more and more frequent. Let's see here. Can I get okay? Then one day, the boy returned the books to the Englishman. Did you learn anything? The Englishman asked, eager to hear what it might be. He needed someone to talk to so as to avoid thinking about the possibility of war. I learned that the world has a soul, and that whoever understands that soul can also understand the language of things. I learned that many alchemists realized their personal legends and wound up discovering the soul of the world, the philosopher's stone, and the elixir of life. But above all, I learned that these things are all so simple that they could be written on the surface of an emerald. Englishman was disappointed. The years of research, the magic symbols, the strange words, and the laboratory equipment, none of this had made an impression on the boy. His soul must be too primitive to understand those things, he thought. He took back his books and packed them away again in their bags. Go back to watching the caravan, he said. That didn't teach me anything either. The boy went back to contemplating the silence of the desert and the sand raised by the animals. Everyone has his or her own way of learning things. Everybody has his or her own way of learning things. His way isn't the same as mine, nor mine is his, but we're both in search of our personal legends, and I respect him for that. And I respect him for that. Everybody put in console respect. So a book like this, what this helped me to do is to change my perspective. And it's interesting to me that, you know, really as I'm reading, it's like, man, it just helped me to realize that everybody isn't the same. Everybody's on their own journey, right? Everybody's not going to do what I do, think like I think, act like I act, and I'm not going to do the same for everybody else. It gave me a sense of understanding that it's okay for me to be different. For me to go on my path, for me to find my personal legend, to then find my treasure. But guess what? As other people are doing that same thing, I can respect them for that. I can respect them for that. Not argue with them, not try to convince them, not try to force them into my way. I can respect them for that. This is the Midday Mental Break, the New Black Wall Street Book Club. Again, I'm just sharing with you things that I did in order to free myself. Right? When I was an employee and I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, I had to break free. I first had to break free in my mind, and then the rest did follow. I read a book like this, The Alchemist. We're now, I think, more than halfway through the book, about halfway through the book. So we should be done probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks. How you guys enjoying the book so far? In the comments below, go ahead and share with us something that stuck with you today, something you're taking away. Was there a seed deposited into your soul? You say, man, I'm going to think on that for a second. I'm going to cultivate that seed and I'm going to bring forth a harvest into my life. Well, go ahead and share that in the comments below. Was this worth your time and why? Well, hopefully you hit that like button, that share button, let people know that we're here. We do this each and every day at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, not each and every day, weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, The Alchemist is just one book. I'm going to be sharing with you other books that I read during that time when I said, you know what, this ain't for me. I got to find a way. Everybody put down, so find a way. I got to find a way to free myself. When I think about it, I say, man, it's just very interesting because all of the people that I know that we look up to, quite possibly, we find to be legends, they were readers. Malcolm X, reader. Marcus Garvey, reader. Martin Luther King, reader. They were studying and they were looking for answers. How about you? They were studying and looking for answers. How about you? Well, I want to say thanks so much for joining us here today on the New Black Wall Street Book Club. Hope you hit that like button, that share button, let people know we're here, invite some people. There might be somebody. And here's what I also know. I know that on this journey across the desert for that treasure, that we're going to pick people up along the way. Right? They may not be here today, but they might be here tomorrow. We're going to pick people up all along the way. Why? Because we're going to find people who are looking for us. Like, man, today's the day. I'm down in my spirit and I just need something to lift me up. Oh, what are they doing? Oh, that's different. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't, let me start tuning in. That's how it works. You first got to start something. And then as you start, you keep chugging along. You keep chugging along. Just like Forrest Gump. He just started running. And next thing you know, by the time at the end of his run, he had thousands of people behind him. All he was doing was running. Are you? I'm telling you, if you just start and you keep going, you're going to find people like, that's a leader right there that I need to follow. Because you are doing, not thinking about it, not talking about it, not hoping for it. You're actually doing. And I don't know what it is about this world, but the people who do are the people that change our society. Well, guys, once again, thanks so much again for being here. I want you to remember this, that it takes a village, and it starts with us. Let's build as we climb together. We all we got, people. But guess what? That's enough. Man, I pray to God preserve each and every one of you, that you have a fantastic Thursday here today, and that he would allow us to join us again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the New Black Wall Street, the Midday Mental Break. Until then, you know what time it is. Mr. DJ, hit the music.